We are Southeastern 16. I'm Chase Robinson. That is Chris Lee. And one team that has been fun to watch this year in the SEC has been the Tennessee Volunteers. So we're going to talk about in this video what makes Tennessee a playoff contender. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, let me tell you about our friends at BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you think you know your stuff, you can get in on the $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, you can go to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or one of the over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, Chris, to you, I mean, we've talked a lot about this Tennessee team. I mean, there's a lot of talent on here. We knew it would be good going in. We wanted to see kind of how the season started. We've seen how the season started through the first 2 games now. So what's a reason for you would say that Tennessee is a playoff contender?
Well, this may not be where I would start on offense because I don't want to steal your thunder here. But when we did our fantasy draft, and I'll put my money where my mouth is, I made Dylan Sampson with my 3rd pick. Your offense is built around your quarterback. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't think that's any shock to anybody who's watching this and knows about Tennessee. But I was doing some math here, reached back to grab my calculator, and Dylan Sampson for his career has rushed 196 times for 1,257 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, and 18 touchdowns. Now, if you make that go 250 carries over a full season, that's 1,600 yards rushing and, I don't know, probably 23, 24 touchdowns. You can win a lot of games in the SEC with that kind of rushing attack, and I think he's going to benefit by having a passing game that will take some pressure off him. That is one of the places I would start when I talk about this team and its ability to be special.
Dylan Sampson's dynamic. I mean, he really is, and we've seen that in the first 2 games. Yeah, he is. He's incredible. He's fun to watch, and I think he's on par to have a really, really good season. A direction I would go in, Chris, when it comes to what I think makes this Tennessee team a playoff contender is their defense. And obviously, this offense is going to score a lot of points. They have a great quarterback. They have Sampson. We'll get to the rest of the offense in a minute. But this defense so far through 2 games. Now, we've seen them, of course, most recently play North Carolina State. They started off the season with Chattanooga. They only allowed 3 points there against Chattanooga. It was 51-10 against North Carolina State. But the Tennessee defense has not allowed a touchdown this season through 2 games, including against a good North Carolina State program. And so I think that is huge for Tennessee to have a defense that can match what they're doing offensively, I think is what this team needed. One guy I really like, that's Keenan Peely. He was out with injury last year. He's back this year, though, and he has been huge for this defense. He has done a tremendous job there at the linebacker position. Defensive back Will Brooks has done big things. He has an interception on the year, and there's tons of guys you can name, but I'm really impressed with Peely being able to come back and kind of lead this defense for Tennessee.
Well, Chase, and if you want to go back one more game, I know it was Iowa, and we can all make Iowa offense jokes, but they shut out Iowa in the bowl game last year too. So that's 3 straight games, I think, without having given up a defensive touchdown. I know the opposition hasn't been fantastic. Although NC State was supposed to have a pretty good offense, and we saw how that went.
Right.
But that just speaks. I mean, you can give up a touchdown by accident. You know, guy slips in coverage or whatever. I think that speaks to focus and coaching and some other things that would bode well when you're trying to build a title contender.
Yeah, for sure. Another reason I think Tennessee's a playoff contender, and that is the one Nico Iamaleava. Obviously, there's been tons of talk on him coming into the year. So far, the first 2 games, he's 38 of 51, 525 yards, 5 touchdowns. He has thrown 2 interceptions. One of those on Saturday against North Carolina State. You know, it was one of those that was not really his fault there, but he has a 75% completion rate. Just an incredible quarterback, and he is what He is what everybody was talking about in the preseason. I mean, he's worth the hype. He's fantastic. If he keeps this up, Tennessee can do some big things. If he keeps playing this way, if everything goes well, Nico Iamaleava is going to be possibly one of the best quarterbacks in the country, one of the best players in the country, and just as he grows and gets more reps and starts, I mean, it's unbelievable what we're seeing from him.
Well, and here's another thing to consider with him, Chase. If you look around the league at the other quarterbacks who are starters and probably even the backups too, he's probably played less football than all of them.
Yeah.
The more football you play, the better you get. Now, look, the schedule hasn't been the greatest. Although playing Iowa's defense is a heck of a way to break in. So there's going to be some growing pains. He did have a couple of picks in the NC State game, but I think when you're talking about a guy who has got so much future in front of him and has been so inexperienced relative to the competition, what that tells you, there's a lot of room for improvement. So I know everybody's already excited about him, but I think that probably adds to it.
No, I would agree with you 100% there. And yeah, I think you can just keep liking him. I mean, he's going to do big things for Tennessee, just as he again develops and gets even better. I feel like than he is. So I think he's a huge part of why Tennessee is a playoff contender. What's another reason, Chris, you think Tennessee could be a playoff contender?
Well, Chase, I think it's the schedule, and I'm going to explain to people what they're looking at. This is a thing I use to kind of try to see what lines are going to look like down the road, and it's a model based on several computer rankings, and it's really close to predicting the lines. And you look to the right out here, this is going to tell you this green and red column what Tennessee is either going to be favored by or an underdog by, and you look up Kent State, I think the line is 48. The model's got it by closer to 50 and a half. Oklahoma was a toss-up game a few weeks ago, maybe even a game where Tennessee was a slight underdog. This now shows Tennessee being a slight favorite. You look down some other games, the only two games where Tennessee's going to be an underdog, according to this, are Alabama. That'd be a -2 in Alabama's favor. And then Georgia would be about a 9.5-point favorite in that one. And the rest of the games, Chase, from that Arkansas game on, Tennessee, other than those two games in which it is a slight underdog, is going to be favored by double digits. Now, that Arkansas game could get a little trickier than people think, because stylistically, Arkansas, if you hadn't seen them play, they can really get after you offensively. And I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. But and here's another thing I'm going to show you. If you look up here at the column says T, and that's what Tennessee's power ranking was going into each game. And you can see Tennessee's gotten about 5 points better by the computers since the start of the season. I've adjusted the teams, the opponents, for what theirs is too. Oklahoma's a team that's gotten worse. Florida's a team that's gotten worse. Kentucky's a team that's gotten worse. And there's some other adjustments here and there. But the computers think Tennessee is a much better team than it was when it started the season. And you know, that Alabama game, the model's got Alabama as a 2-point favorite. I'm not so sure that might not flip with the odds makers. If you had to pick this game right now, the way both teams are playing, and that game being in Knoxville, you might well see Tennessee a 2 or 3-point favorite.
Yeah, and you know, even if this model is 100% right, and maybe Tennessee drops in Alabama or Georgia, even with those two losses, I see Tennessee getting in the playoffs and possibly being able to make a run. And, you know, with two losses, I think that's possible now with this 12-team playoff. So that is certainly interesting. I think we are looking at a Tennessee team that is a playoff contender, and that's why we think they are, that we just laid out for you in this video. We've got you covered with the Tennessee Vols and the rest of the SEC right here on Southeastern 16. So subscribe to our channel. And like this video, share it with your friends. And hey, if you're interested in sponsoring our content, caroline.smith at southeastern14.com is who you can email, and we can start those conversations. But we are Southeastern 16, covering SEC football, basketball, and baseball, and we are brought to you by